Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. So, going on, and probably I've seen this multiple times now, and probably my feelings of first time out of the gate was like, God, this movie's awful. And like the second time around, I'm like, okay, this might be better, but still, like, I don't remember like most of this movie because there's too much freaking going on. And like this time around, I would just be like, you know what? Like, I would say that Henry Cavill as Superman and Ben Affleck as Batman, they're they're both good at what they do. It's just they're not in a good Batman or Superman movie with the exclusion of Man of Steel. And like, yeah, that's like how I want to play it, is just like I never want to go on and wait an hour to see a superhero fighting somebody. And it's like, okay, cool, here's the cool moment. I don't want a ridiculous buildup of a number of side characters who I don't give a rip about, who are going on and solving all these clues and mysteries and whatever. And I'm like, I don't really care. Like, can we just punch somebody? Can like somebody do something freaking cool here? This is boring as F. Like, I don't like the build of this movie. And so I can just go on and just blame the writers, directors, and everybody else who was just behind the scenes putting this thing out there. Because I'm like, I like, they give you nothing fun enough to, within that first hour, just go on and be like, wow, this feels worth it to just sit here for an hour, just kind of watch Batman run away from the police, and like that's what we get for like an hour. It's like, ooh, that's exciting. Ooh, wow. Like, but I like the fact that they do tie in Man of Steel to this movie, and it does make a lot of sense that Superman is to destroy way too much within this world, and it makes sense that like there is a Man of Steel aftermath of things. But here's also the thing, though: when you go on, you watch a DC movie, you have to wait far too long for any film, any show, anything, and then it just kind of gets to the point where it's just like, well, like, why do I even need to go on and eventually be part of this world? I have to wait so long for it. Like, by the time like I get one DC movie, there's been like three different Marvel shows. There's been like five different MCU movies that came out, and like that's just the thing. But like, I can still go on and enjoy a superhero movie, and so honestly, I would just have to go on and say that this movie is okay. More than likely, if I were to watch this multiple times, like say if I was to watch it five more times, I could probably go on and say like, you know what, maybe like because of other crappy films, you know what, this one thumbs up, but I'll just go one of these. Just like, hey, you sold me. Okay with it, and so that's all anyone could really ask for. I hate the Lex Luthor in this movie. I don't like what they end up doing with the end of this film, as far as villain, or as just like the whole villain side of it is really just garbage. Uh, we go on and have too many mysteries in this movie that are to all have the same people lead to the same thing. And like we have like Diane that's doing the same thing that Bruce is doing, but she's gonna get to it first before he does, and I'm like, who cares? Like, whoever, just like follow the bouncing ball of whoever gets this first. But really, it's just like setting up that Bruce is to somehow know Diane, and not even know how Diane is to really give a rip about Lex Luthor. It's just like, it is what it is with this film. really, like, Wonder Woman just could continue to live in the Louvre and not give a crap. She could just continually doing her Louvre stuff, and who would care? So, like, I love the Superman stuff in this movie. I enjoy it. Like the whole like statue that they have to kind of play around with in this movie, the whole false god thing, and to build this guy up as this like this savior, but he's still like killed a number of people. He has a large body count, and Senator Finch is to want to put this guy on trial, like so many other different superheroes that have gone on and eventually been a thing. Iron Man, uh, like Iron Man. How many other like superheroes have gotten arrested? Like Spider Man, I think had gotten arrested at some point. Uh, like Jesus, um, the cops are always after Batman. Anyways, so uh, certain characters are to be treated more as an outlaw than anything else. So pushing on. So with that said, I think that's like my overall grading. This is on HBO Max right now. More than likely, a lot of people would, if you haven't by now, go onto HBO Max content, because CW is going to be eventually a place that is probably no longer have superhero content, just because it just like really doesn't have the budget. It's to eventually have a lot of people way more interested in anything coming out of HBO Max. And like, so the CW is just like, I don't know if we can come up with any more stuff. And because it's all going to HBO Max, and boom, that's what happens. That's the mistake they make. And so, like, I guess the CW is just going to eventually just all funnel right into HBO Max, because what could they do otherwise? Uh, yeah, there's just not enough like shows that are gonna really last that long, because one reason or another. But so, anyways, but you'd be surprised. So, going on, teeing it up. What is this movie about? All the crap that I don't honestly want to say. I just like, I like. There's so many things with Lois and Bruce and stuff going on with Clark. I'm just like, I just like, can we nix all of that? All of that garbage? So the main focus is the fact that no one can really trust Superman in this movie, even though they're saying that he's their savior, he's their god. They also don't trust him, also. And there's a number of people that are kind of having these conspiracy theories that Superman may somehow be involved with certain murders or certain explosions, and because they, of course, don't want to exactly not rule him out. So Batman is to also realize that Superman really is an alien here, and Bruce is to see him as a guy who is to have killed thousands of people when Zod was to come and try to take out Metropolis. And that's all Bruce is concerned about, is the body count, and wanting to go on and say that, like, I don't care what side this guy's on, like, I'm going to be the one who takes him down because it's the right thing to do. So, because there's no way that we can trust him, so, like, we're going to have to go on and just wipe him out. Hence why you would have Batman at some points having a whole contingency plan for the Justice League within Justice League Doom, because Batman is just paranoid and he doesn't trust frickin' anybody. There's certain other movies and shows that would contradict that, but I think the best Batman is the most paranoid Batman. That's the one where it sells the best. A heavily paranoid Batman that's like, well, like, I'm not gonna let anybody else uh like try to go on and do this. I'll be the one. So with that said, We have Lex Luthor in this movie for whatever goofy reason that he just exists. It should honestly have actually been a Joker character, because, like, really we have it where, like, Luthor is just playing a Joker character anyways. And all the stuff that he has to go on and say just feels more like justified Joker than like a smart Lex Luthor. But it's whatever. Like, this is probably the worst Lex Luthor. But then you also have another villain in this story, because Wonder Woman needs to eventually suit up at some point in this film to be tied to this movie, because posters would tell you that. And so, yeah, everybody's commingling and doing all these investigations. There's a lot of stuff dealing with whether or not that they can trust Superman, and that's like the whole rigmarole of the story. Going into spoilers, like, I'll go in and be way more in depth about this, but I just don't want to go on and like just try to tee up this movie. I just don't have that in me to just want to take the time to tee up this movie, because it's just it's okay, but at the end of the day, it's just like nothing that I want to just go on like, oh yeah, let's do this twice, because that's what spoilers are for. So let's go into it. Let's go into that double five time territory. Let's just go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about the time we get to spoil this movie. So in the opening credits, we have the origin of Batman, which is done far too much in films, but people just have to always get reminded about another Batman whose parents who had died, both Martha and Thomas, because technically that somehow is to play into this film, because double Martha. Super awesome double Martha. Super awesome delicious double Martha. You know what I'm saying? So we get the re-origin of Batman, and Walking Dead cast members are to go on and get killed in this movie. So it's like, well, they're already Walking Dead, might as well be like dead all anyways. And come to find out, we have Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who has now been killed off in 2 DC movies. Count them, 2, unless he's eventually going to be in some other one, and then maybe that count will continue to just go on. So we then get past that point, and so we have it where Bruce is to make his way to Metropolis to go to, I guess, a Wayne Enterprise building that is in Metropolis. That is to, of course, be. I'm assuming, or I'm kind of wondering, if this Jack guy. I'm wondering if this could possibly be Bruce's uncle. Because if you were to go on and like see some Batman Year Zero or Year One or some of those kind of early comic of books, you would find out that Bruce technically does have a relative, and like he's an uncle that you don't really hear much, and so I kind of figured that like Bruce would have this uncle that doesn't go by this, like, well, maybe, well, yeah, maybe, like, I don't know, like, you would think that maybe he's, like, some distant relative or something like that that doesn't share the same name. You don't know. Things could happen. People could get adopted or whichever and find out, oh, yeah, you're my biological family. It's weird. So because I just want to have Jack be a much more important character than what this character probably used to be, nothing or nobody and whatever. So, because why would this character matter? So we go on and we have Bruce, who is rushing to try and save Jack, and while he's going on to get to that building, we find out that Bruce is to go on and save a guy named Wallace. And so we have Bruce to say, hey, like, your name is Wallace. Do people call you Wally? Who gives a shit? Like, who cares? They end up using his, like, last name throughout this whole entire film past this point. but because eventually he ends up getting like a real part of this film, and so we have it where Bruce is to go on and have to save this girl before a thing is to collapse upon her. And so Bruce is to hold on to this girl, and Bruce is to find out that this girl is to have a mother inside this building. And Bruce is like, well, like, sorry, I don't have my batarang with me, because Bruce, like, I guess didn't realize that he should go into full Batman gear to do all of this stuff, because it would have probably made a lot more sense. So Bruce is to see both Superman and Zod flying through buildings and crashing through things. He's like, I'm blaming Superman for all of these deaths, and blaming Jack being dead, and all of these people who are to forcibly die from the hands of any Kryptonians. And so Bruce is already ticked. So we now go on, and we have it where Lex Luthor is trying to find him some kryptonite. And so, come to find out, there seems to be some kryptonite in some ocean, and they uncover it on this beach, and this huge, massive rock that they kind of chisel away to find themselves some green kryptonite. They couldn't find any other color besides green, because they don't have enough time to dance with any other colored kryptonite within this film, because why would they? So all the kryptonite is all coming up green. So we then have to also transition to have Lois Lane with Jimmy Olsen in Africa. And here is the controversial part. Jimmy Olsen is in this movie, but you have a character that they just end up figuring out a way, as per usual, through a number of these like kind of superhero movies now. You have to kill off the lesser important character, and so we'll get to that. So Lois Lane is to meet with a terrorist named Amaja, and his bodyguard is to be a guy named Anatoly. And so we have Lois going to Africa, and it seems like she's to kind of clear it through a number of people to say, like, well, hey, like, we can go on and have a camera, right? Like, we can take a picture of this guy, correct? Like, we just want to go on and have this interview and just get out of here. We don't want anything to happen. And so we're just kind of clearing it with everybody. And so we have Jimmy and we have Lois, who makes it to Amaja, and we have it where Anatoly is to take Jimmy Olsen's camera and is to take the film and crush it. And so Anatoly is to look through this camera, and is to find that there is a bug within inside of it, realizing that Jimmy is to reveal that he is CIA, and that immediately they're going to go on and shoot Jimmy and kill him off here. So the government is to find out that, I guess, they are to be found out about, and so we now have Amaja, who is to be taking Lois Lane as this hostage, and so Superman is to show up after we have a number of all these men who is to shoot all these other this terrorist organization and just get the heck out of there, because Superman is going to show up soon. And so Superman is to smash through this ceiling and is to make his way to where Lois is, and Lois is to kind of like have her hand over this guy's arm, but then she kind of lets it go off to her side, because we have Superman who is to grab Amaja and is to put him through a wall and take care of him. So we now like transition from that, and so we now have to do something with Batman. So it seems that we have this police patrol who is to go on and get this call that it seems there is a number of certain like women that are to be imprisoned, and that it seems also that there is a guy named Santos who is to be tied up and branded with the bat symbol. So these police officers go on to meet with these women that they try to open this cage for, and these women are like, "No, don't open this up. Like he's still here." And the officers are like, what are they talking about?" So we have the police officers making their way to see Santos, who is now branded, and they end up seeing that Batman is kind of like on the ceiling, just kind of like attaching himself as if he's almost Spider-Man like. And so Batman is to scramble out of this room, avoiding these police officers, and then is to go on and to realize that Santos was to not be the guy that Anatoly is to go on and be the guy who is to know information, and like Batman is just kind of following this path, trying to figure out things, and that eventually is what he ends up talking to Alfred about as Alfred is going on and trying to adjust the voice thing within like Batman's helmet, and Alfred is to go on and have to rewire the helmet because it's not the voice problem, it's just the helmet problem. So we also have it where Clark is making home with groceries while Lois is in the tub. The best part about the movie, Lois just in that tub. Like, what else could you ask for? So Lois, of course, is to mention to Clark about some of the things kind of going on, and really just Clark is to just go on and want to take his clothes off and to be with Lois in this tub and to kiss her and have like a bunch of the water just kind of flood out of the bath, because like he just wants to be with Lois and that's all he really cares about at this moment. So we then transition on and are to have the guy who was to, of course, be called Wallace. Wallace Keefe, I believe his name is. Yep, that's correct. We have Wallace Keefe, who is to go on and lose his legs because of what had happened. Of course, him being a very bitter guy, is to go on and be in this wheelchair and is decide to make his way to the Superman statue, where he is to spray paint upon it False God. He is to climb upon this thing and is to spray paint False God, where of course he is to get arrested for, but then someone is to go on and bail him out, which I'm assuming would be Lex Luthor. So we transition to have Senator Finch, who of course is to meet up with Lex Luthor at LexCorp. And so they really try to like youth up, they really try to young up Lex Luthor. Like making it to where like he's like in this like kind of LexCorp, but it's kind of like a skate park, and he has these like cool shirts, and like he's to like be like presented as this like cool flashy like rich guy and whatever, and we have like the LexCorp logo that has to be like so like neon and cool and all this stuff. And so Lex Luthor is to go on and meet with Senator Finch and is to eventually tell her about the small portion of kryptonite that they had found, and that they had the ability to cut through Zod's skin with this small bit of kryptonite, and Lex is to go on and find a bigger amount of kryptonite within this ocean. And so we have it where Lex is after this uh, wanting to get a number of items because these people are to give this guy whatever he wants to be able to produce some kind of answers within this alien tech. And so we have it where Lex is to ask that he, of course, wants like Zod's body. He wants the alien spacecraft, and like he just kind of wants like all these things, and is to give this guy this Jolly Rancher and say, "Here's Jerry," and I'm like, what was this? Should just be like having like a douche move or something like that. But anyways, so we have Perry White that is trying to go on and give Clark assignments, and he's telling him like, "Hey man, like go on and give us some sports stuff." Because of course we have the battle between Metropolis and Gotham within football that is to kind of really heat up. So Perry White is to want to go on and want Clark to go on and do this piece about sports, and Kent really could care less. He's like, no, like Batman. And Perry White's like, no, not Batman. Like, I don't give a about Batman. It's like that goes in Gotham. Like, we're in Metropolis. I don't really care about Batman. So we have it where like Kent is to go on and notice that on the TV there is a girl named Zuri that is to be giving this like testimony to go up against Superman, as well as Wallace eventually is going to be another witness to go on. And so Clark is to go into Gotham to not only like figure out how he can go on and talk to Zuri and kind of convince her to retract her statement. And it seems like nobody was home when he was to be there, and he was talking to this one guy, and then leaves. And then Kent is to try to get a possible statement from the Santos family, and come to find out Santos had been killed in prison, and like the Santos's like wife had to kind of let Kent know about this. So now that I've covered all of that, we then go on and have Bruce, who is to make his way to this underground fighting environment. And so it seems that Bruce is to go on and take one of these fighters and is to whisper sweet nothings into his ear, which led to him going on and beating the other guy. And so once this fight is over, it seems that both Bruce and both Anatoly are like in the same kind of spot together. Bruce is to figure out how to sync his phone with this guy's, and is to kind of pull it over. I'm like, oh, okay, like so. It seems that Bruce is to find out that there seems to be a number of calls coming from some guy named White Portuguese, where they keep referencing it, and they're like, okay, who exactly is this character? So we go on and we have Kent, who is to want to try to still pitch to Perry White, a story about the crime wave in Gotham, and that Batman is on the loose. And Perry White is going on and saying like, I'm sorry, but like that's not going to sell newspapers. And Kent is like, well, like newspapers aren't selling anyways. And Perry's like, well, yeah, I get that, but still, like, because I'm thinking at some point, like, shouldn't we have this like thing drastically change and become like some media thing, or like they should go on and try to do what they did with Spider-Man with the Daily Bugle, and try to go on and be like some kind of like social media, like some kind of uh, like TMZ or something like that, where they can kind of get more of the like more of like the word out instead of going on and doing like still like news reporting stories. Like I don't know if exactly uh like this is kind of like a like past its point at this time, where it's like it was so good when in Man of Steel they don't focus so much about that, because now when we have to have them focus on it, it still is like, well, this is like a dead thing. Like this doesn't make sense to do this anymore. It's like a past. Like how long is this really gonna how long is this really gonna have legs? And it won't. So moving on. So we have it where Lois was to go on and find that she was to have this book that was to have this bullet inside of it, and she was to pull it out, and she was to go on and pitch to Perry White that this is an unusual bullet. And so Lois is to want to go on and put a story about this, and Perry's not really interested in that. And so we have it where Lois is to write this story anyways to meet up with Janet Cryburn or Cryburn, and even a woman at the Pentagon like doesn't really know what this thing is, and so then Lois has to turn around and talk to Swanwick, who eventually, if you guys don't know, within the Justice League 4 hour version, he ends up eventually becoming a character that we all know and love, and I knew who exactly that was, and I was like, okay, good for that guy getting that character, but still is just like that character adds nothing to the movie, and then like where's that character gonna go? Oh, nowhere. Like, okay, great. So unless they're gonna do something with that character substantially within the next Superman movie, who cares? Sadly enough. So Lois is to go on and talk to, like, I'm gonna just get all of this out. So Lois is to talk to Swanwick, and he is telling her confidential stuff that you shouldn't tell anybody. But Swanwick just wants to get it out to Lois. It's like, well, hey, like, you're not going to report on this, right? Confidential stuff? You're not going to talk about this. You're a reporter, right? So Swanwick is to mention that this bullet is to come from none other than LexCorp, and that's why it's so unique. And so it seems that LexCorp may go on and be dealing uh, these these bullets under the table. And so with that said, we go on and we have it where Lex Luthor is talking to Senator Finch. And like most of the dialogue that is to be coming from here is, of course, Lex talking about the red capes are coming. The red capes are coming, reminding us of something from our history, and is to go on and is to talk to this woman and eventually get to the point where like a lot of this dialogue just feels meaningless. Moving on. So now we transition to Bruce, who, of course, is to go to Martha's grave and is to realize that this grave is cracking and there's blood in it and all of this great stuff. So Bruce is to go on and tell Alfred about the whole white Portuguese thing, and eventually they will find out what white Portuguese actually means. Once they actually go on and they go to Lex's party, which is the next thing up. So Perry is to go on and tell Clark that he is specifically invited to go to Lex's party that he is throwing. And Clark is like, okay, that's weird. So Clark is to go on to Lex's party and, of course, is to go on and have it where Bruce is to have this hacking thing into Lex's computers, and it seems that when he has to go on and have this thing kind of load, and then he walks back into the party to talk with both Lex and both Clark, and is to have Clark talking about like Batman and how, of course, like how like nobody's going on and doing anything about this guy, and so Bruce from Retort is telling like Superman, it's like, well, hey, like every time that Superman is to go on and do something, like you guys create like a fluff piece about him and just kind of like you use his character as a moneymaker, and like isn't that horrible? So we then go on, and Diane is to steal the encryptor thing that Batman was to put into the in to be by these servers, and so Bruce is to chase after Diane and eventually want this encryptor thing back, which eventually she was to borrow, and then she hands it back to him, and so Bruce eventually is to go on and find out not only about the white Portuguese and how it's just really just a boat, but then he is to also go on and find out uh, about the other members of the Justice League team, the metahumans, that of course are possibly to be found out by Lex. And so Bruce is like, oh, okay, well, I think I can use these characters to eventually put a team together. So we also have it at some point where Superman is to go on, I believe, to Mexico to go on and save a person, and is to also have to save a number of people from this flooding and do all of these things to save all of these people. And so also, while Bruce is waiting for this decryption on the Lex's like stuff that he's copied off to load, Bruce is to have this dream. And here's where we actually get to like the first hour of this film. Good God. And we're only 37 minutes in. Jeez. So Bruce is to go on, and like we had this guy throughout this movie that was to be called Python, that was to be tied to the CIA, and I think like within this dream he gets retied into this whole scenario. So Batman is to go on and be chasing Kryptonite, and when he then is to go on and be chasing this container that is supposedly have kryptonite in it. Instead, it's not actually to be kryptonite, it's to be this bomb instead. Bruce is to go on and then run out and to try and fight off a number of Superman's army, and then is to be fighting these parademons, who of course we've seen be tied with Darkseid within a lot of animated movies, or a lot of just certain kind of comic books and stuff that are kind of a lot tied with a lot of these characters that are seen right here. Like the Superman army really just ties into a lot of like the Injustice God Among Us comic books. Like you could probably go on and watch the Injustice animated thing, but I don't really think that there's like really like the Superman army that goes in there. Like from what I remember, I feel like that like you would have to go into the Injustice comic books. I think by right around like issue 9 is when things start to like drastically change. Superman has an army, and he's teaming up with Lex Luthor, and they're the best of friends. So but the parademons, like whenever you would see Darkseid eventually being mixed into a story, you would see these parademons. Like just go on and watch like the Justice League animated movie with Shazam in it. Like that's like the easy go-to thing. Where you would get all like the mother boxes and like a really good interaction between Batman and Green Lantern that we sadly don't eventually get any part of this here. Because why would we? Because Ryan Reynolds doesn't want anything to do with Green Lantern. Hence why they should honestly just figure out a way to reboot Green Lantern. But heaven forbid that's a live action focus or doing anything with that. Why would they go on and take that kind of time? Because it would be smart. But anyways, so like I think still with like the animated movie that came out with Jon Stewart, I think they completely wipe out Hal Jordan and are focusing on Jon Stewart, which I love Jon Stewart anyways. Like it's just the fact that I'm like, okay, like so like this seems cool, but like I would have liked for this to have been a series rather than like a movie because you're just like tossing something out there that like I'm not gonna like nibble on that right away. Like I'll just wait till it eventually comes out and just like, okay, great, like this looks interesting, but like there seems to be a hodgepodging of just a lot of like Justice League like animated series vibes that they're kind of tossing back into this film, and I don't like that at all. Like that is garbage. Like that's just like recycling stuff to make it seem new. So, as well as Justice or as well as DC just likes to do, because it just does. So, speaking of recycling, uh, that Doomsday. How we go on and we have Zod's body, and then Lex Luthor is to like just bleed on it, and then like the two specimens of those added together is to eventually give us a Doomsday in this movie. I'm like, we do the same thing in Superman, like Superman Quest for Peace. Like we have it where like Lex Luthor is to take a hair from Superman and is to go on and like use his blood, his DNA, and wham, like we have a guy who is only powerful when the sun is around, and that's about it. When the sun isn't around, he's like, and he dies. So, but anyways, so pushing back on to where I was going with, so Batman is in the dream fighting with parademons and Superman army. And so we transition to then have Batman now be imprisoned with a number of people that he's allied himself with to have eventually Superman go into this place to kill every single one of them off besides Batman. And then Superman is to unmask Batman. Like, Bruce Wayne. What a massive surprise this was because even Superman could have immediately known that, like, Batman is Bruce Wayne. Like the easy assumption of that. So Batman is to go on and wake up from this horrible dream after also seeing the Flash, who is to come to him through this like kind of I'm gonna go with Time Force or no Speed Force, and tell him it's like, hey, like Bruce, I've come to you too soon. Lois Lane is the key. She's the key. Like, it doesn't matter because you're probably going to have to resolve this within the Flash movie, right? Which they're probably just going to recast that character anyways. And what a massive waste that'll just be. God, like, DC, can you just have one person in your films that is be in a number of movies? And can you just do that? Can you just have one person who's like, dude, I'll do these movies till I die. And you have that person and it works out. Can't, like, how many Batmans do we have to go through? How many, like, and is Robert Pattinson even going to go on and do another Batman movie? I highly doubt it. Good God, how many one-off, like, how many one-off actors do you have to have? It's a joke. It's ridiculous at this point. So, moving on with this. So, White Portuguese is to lead to a boat, and so now Batman is to be chasing after this boat. And so this boat is to be at these docks and is to deliver within this container. And so now Batman with the Batmobile is chasing after this container, trying to go on and take down Anatoly, and he is to bump into Superman along the way. So now we of course have Superman, who is to rip open the Batmobile and tell Batman, it's like, hey, the Bat is dead. It's buried. If there's ever going to be a Bat signal that is to be on, don't follow it. So we have where Batman is to ask Superman, it's like, do you bleed? And Superman goes off and he's like, you will. Just the like, oh yeah, like, we're really gonna, like, yeah, we're gonna get to some fight here eventually within the next hour of movie, right? We gotta give people some hope. So, but while this is going on, we have Anatoly, who is to give Lex Luthor this kryptonite, and then Mercy, who is to be Lex's assistant, is kind of looking on us like, ooh, yeah, like we have this kryptonite. So we now have to go on, and so Clark, of course, is to be talking to Lois, and is to talk to his own mother, and just like question things and like question what he's doing. And eventually his mother is to give him this pep talk, and Lois is to go on and tell him like that symbol that's on your chest still means hope. And but like Clark or Superman is to say, it's like, well, yeah, but that was like a symbol of hope from my world. Like, now I'm here, like, it doesn't mean the same thing. But so, like, Lois is to just go on and try to, like, pep talk Clark, but then Clark just flies away to go on and do yet more things that he has to go on and continue to try to do here. So we have Zuri that is to make her way back to her building to find out that Anatoly is to be questioning this guy, and Zuri is now kind of like, she's kind of on edge. And so now Zuri has to go on to Senator Finch and tell her, like, yeah, like, my statement was all like a falsity because I just wanted to go on and like get this payout from Anatoly, and like these were kind of really sketchy or scary guys, so I just did whatever they said. So now they don't have a witness, and eventually we have Wallace, who is to come in and be this witness, because Lex is to go on and give this guy a better wheelchair. He's like, well, hey, like, how about we talk? And so that talk is to lead to, of course, Wallace going in to Senator Finch and is to have this wheelchair and is to go on and be the witness against Superman. So we now have it where Superman is to go to this trial and is to physically be there to defend himself. And so while we have this trial starting off, we of course have it where Senator Finch is to try to get her first like opening thing out, but then all of a sudden she is to turn and see this this kind of tea drink, and she is to go on and kind of look around and like, what? So all of a sudden the whole trial is to blow up, and supposedly everybody's thinking like, oh, Superman probably did it, like he didn't want any of these people like judging him and bringing him to jail, so he has to be somehow tied to this. But come to find out, the whole explosion was to really just come from Wallace's wheelchair, and like it was to be hidden because it was hidden from lead, and Superman can't see lead, and so he didn't know that there was a bomb there. And Lois weirdly is to go on and look through Wallace's place to find out that that of course uh, Wallace had just bought groceries, and so she's like, oh, well, he didn't know he was gonna die because he just bought groceries. Like, that means anything. Like, what if someone else is going to live there? What if Wallace gave this apartment to somebody else? Like, there's a bunch of story that doesn't go anywhere here. We also had it where Bruce was to go on and find about the number of checks that Wallace was to get to compensate him uh, for this building's destruction. And Wallace is to consistently be sending these checks back, saying that, like, uh, Bruce doesn't see what's going on. He's completely oblivious. He's unaware. All of this stuff. Like, why can't you see Bruce? And Bruce is like, oh my god, like, how is it that I haven't been aware of this? And the guy's like, well, gee golly, I don't know, because you're never freaking here. Like, that's your fault. So Bruce is to take some of the blame of what was to go on there, because like Bruce should have probably gone on and said like, well, maybe I could have gotten this guy like therapy, or I could have gone on and tried to like help this guy or convince this guy and take special interest in him. But Bruce just didn't, because Bruce like doesn't give a so so yeah, so with that, we also go on and have Clark, who is especially after like he is to be accused of still being this enemy, this villain to a number of people. Clark is to go on to this walkabout where it seems that the people who are talking about what Clark is doing is saying that Clark, where he's just heading to die, because like there's like no way for this guy to, because they don't know he's Superman. So Clark is to go on and speak to the ghost of his father, and to possibly get some kind of and this is Jonathan. This isn't like Russell Crowe guy. This is to be like Jonathan here, like talking to Jonathan. And so Jonathan is to have this story about him having this hero cake while a number of horses are like squealing to their deaths. And Jonathan was to say that he was always haunted by the sound of those horses. And so really like that's like the big part of that story is just like, well, hey, like you can have the best intentions, but there's still like always going to be like something you're going to lose, or something that like you can't win everything, and so like you just have to kind of deal with that. So since of course Superman is now gone, we transition to, of course, have Lois Lane, who is to go on and eventually try and attempt to be kidnapped. And so when Lois is to go on and be kidnapped by Anatoly, and she is to like, you know what, you look familiar. Do I remember you? And it's like, oh, it's that guy. So Lois is to run off. Eventually, she is to get nabbed by all of these vehicles and stuff like that. We eventually have Martha, who is to go on and have the exact same thing happen to her as she's leaving her job for the day and is to go on and is to try to throw the trash out. She ends up getting abducted and ends up getting kidnapped. So while that's going on, we also have it where of course, Batman is training his heart out to go on and eventually try to be as strong as possibly Superman, and then is to go on and get this kind of armored suit to try and persuade Superman to fight him. by putting on this bat signal to like, hey man, like I'm ready. So now that Superman is to know that Lois is to be kidnapped here, we have it, of course, where Lex is just to decide to drop Lois off the side of this building where Superman is there to catch her. And so Superman is to drop Lois uh, and is to just kind of fly back off. So Lex is to now talk with Superman, and like he is to try to be like this weird ring promoter now where it's like the man against the alien, the like the Kryptonian against the bat, and like this and that, like this weird goofy like fight promoter kind of thing that he's trying to do here because they need to just waste more time. And so Lex is saying that at some point Superman was to have 60 minutes to fight with Batman, either to kill him or to have him assist him. And so, like, go on and you have this time, or Martha is going to die. So, Superman is now talking to Lois, and he's like, "Well, like, I don't know, like, how I'm gonna convince this guy to work with me." And so, like, uh, but Clark just has zero time here. So we have it where it's now fight night, and so Superman is to meet with Batman, and it seems that Superman is trying to tell Batman what's going on, but Superman doesn't want to listen. He just wants to pelt this guy with at first this gas, and then is to pelt him with kryptonite gas, and then is to have Superman fairly weak to where Batman has the opportunity here to go on and have like an evened up bout. Here's the thing though, I think a lot of people were actually wanting for Superman to have, instead of this metal suit, I think a lot of people were hoping that like he would have a like green kryptonite suit. That would make all the sense in the world. Or you would think that like a lot of this armor would have been somehow like made from Krypton or some kind of like variation of kryptonite, to where it would make all the sense in the world to just be like, oh, this whole like head to toe suit is made from Krypton like pieces and whatever, and like that makes all the sense. So we of course have Batman that eventually is to get like thrown through these walls, but at some point we also have Batman getting the clear advantage a lot of times, going on and getting the moment where he takes the Gatling gun, is now swinging Batman, or Batman is swinging Superman across these pillars and smacking him against it, and like injuring his back by this massive fall, and like is really just putting the boots to Superman. And so finally we have where Superman is to literally put his boot upon Superman's chest, and that's when of course Superman is to mention Martha, and Bruce is now saying, it's like, why are you saying that name? Why are you saying Martha? And Lois is running in. She's like, well, it's because, like, that's his mother. Like, she's in trouble. And Batman is going on and telling Clark here, it's like, well, hey, like, I'm going to go on and I'm going to promise you that, like, Martha will be, like, protected or saved this night. And like you can go on and deal with what you have to go on and you have to deal with. So Batman is to go on, and before the last 10 minutes are up, we have Batman who is to take the Batwing, I guess, and is to fly through this window, is to go on and take all these guys out, and take down Anatoly, because we need all like the human villains to just be taken down at this point for Martha to save, or to be saved by Batman. And Batman is to tell Martha, it's like, well, I'm a friend of your son's, and he's like, I know, like I could tell because of the cape. And so they go on in like this whole warehouse scene. Like it's fun, and so, but like we really just have to push on and get to the bigger fight here. So this whole like fight night thing and the whole Martha thing was just a big, massive stall for Lex to go on and have his Doomsday be given birth. And so once Lex is to find out exactly, or once Superman is to find out where exactly Lex is, and is to see him in the Kryptonian ship, he is to unleash Doomsday, and now we have to go on and have Wonder Woman, who is to be on this plane, and she's thinking like, oh no, I don't have to be in the fight, like I can go on and do whatever. And all of a sudden she's starting to see more and more on the news that there's these electrical surges, and then there seems to be this monster that's coming out. And so Diana's like, no, I have to go on, and I have to fight now, because it seems like they, and so, and Diana also is to have gotten emails from Bruce like, is this you? Like, where have you been? So on and so forth. All that crap that I think they reiterate within Wonder Woman 84, about the whole picture thing that eventually Bruce is to see, and then Bruce is to go on and find the original to give to Wanda in 84. So Wanda gets into the mix of here when eventually Batman is in his Batwing, and they are to realize that they need to scramble to go on and find the kryptonite that is kind of buried beneath all this rubble, and so on and so forth. So, with all that said, Superman is going on and finding Doomsday, and that's like a battle on itself. And so Batman is to try to distract, or no, I think what all happens is we have Superman who takes like Doomsday up into the air, and that's when they use the nukes, and they detonate the nukes, and both Superman and Doomsday, like Superman is now like, ugh, and he has to use the sun to re-heal, and Doomsday is making his way back onto Earth and is creating like such havoc. Batman is trying to use the Batwing to make his way back to the Kryptonite Spear, and Lois is to also be figuring that out, and so she's also making it to the Kryptonite Spear, and so, but she ends up getting like stuck within the rubble. When Superman is to make it back, he is to figure out that Lois is in trouble, that she might die, and so Superman is to rescue Lois, and then is to try to go back for the spear, but he can't get to it because kryptonite. Lois is to now have to save Superman, and then eventually Lois is to chuck the spear, and so we have it where Batman is to try to lure Doomsday back to where the spear was, and then the Batwing is to be destroyed, and by the time the Batman is to kind of brace himself because he's probably going to get hit here, all of a sudden Wonder Woman is to come in with her bracelets to kind of counterbalance this attack, and then we go on and have all three of these people together fighting and going on and having Wonder Woman trying to take Doomsday down, and Superman is turning to Batman, is like, oh, I thought she was with you, and Batman was like, well, I thought the same. So we go on, and so we have to have a goofy reference of Steppenwolf by the end of this movie and mother boxes and all that crap for the Justice League tie-in, which I'm like, this Steppenwolf looks like garbage, and it's just a quick thing that like reasonably like now like they need to go on and remaster this movie to just make this Steppenwolf look different, or they could have really just tied Doomsday at the end of the or Doomsday, Darkseid at the end of this to go on and like, hey, there's a Doomsday and there's a Darkseid. They look the exact freaking same. They're almost the same character. Because they look the same. Even when Doomsday makes it back to Earth, he just has like bones that kind of crackle out. But like Darkseid and this Doomsday look identical. There's like you should have gone on and made this character like a lot more like bones and a lot like it just looks like a clone of Darkseid. And why couldn't you have just gone on and done Darkseid? You could have gone on and had like Darkseid come in here and just be like, well, whoa, like I think I went into this way too hastily. So now I'm going to go on, and when I come back, like I'm going to come back with better numbers. Like I didn't know what was going on before, but now I'm much more prepared. Like we could justify that Lex Luthor could have found some other boxes, and like they already played with that with Cyborg, so it would have made all the sense in the world to just have Lex Luthor, instead of going on and finding kryptonite, he could have been finding mother boxes in this movie. Could have worked. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, but it didn't. So we have this fight out where really just Batman like isn't really in this fight. He's just trying to like just get away from Doomsday as Wonder Woman and Superman are trying to fight on this character. So eventually Superman is to get this spear into Doomsday's chest, but it's not in there good enough. And Doomsday is to stab into Superman into his chest. And so Superman now has to pull into this wound a lot more to then pull further into Doomsday's chest. And then it's to have both one another get killed off here. And that's how, of course, Doomsday is to die in this film. And we have it where they go on into the alien ship to eventually see Mother Boxes and Steppenwolf, and like to just showcase that eventually there's going to be at some point where Justice League is going to be a thing. And so we then have them turn around and bury Superman. And Superman is to have the black, like funeral colors, and it seems like we bury him as we would bury like Clark here. And so everybody goes on to the funeral of Superman, and they bury him, and we have Lois who's to put the dirt into the grave, as we would know every single like funeral for anybody who dies in a Superman thing, like dirt in the grave. Here's the thing though. We had like this black S, or this black and silver S like coffin, but then when we go on and we see that Superman is actually in the grave, it looks like it's just some wooden coffin. Could they not have figured out how to have gone on and had like the same coffin be used in this film? What the was that? But so Diane is talking to Bruce and mentioning that like, well, hey, like it seems that soon we're going to need to get a team together because it's just a feeling that I have, and we have to go on and find the others and eventually figure out a way to persuade them to join a team because something big is on the horizon. So after that, we then go on and have Bruce, who we have Batman, who is to make it to the prison where Lex Luthor is to be held, and Lex Luthor is to supposedly get some visitor, but then it ends up to be Batman instead. Batman is to go on and threaten Luthor that he is going to have him transferred somehow or another to Arkham Asylum, where he has a bunch of friends there. And so, like, Luthor, one way or another, will be dealt with. And Lex, of course, is just boasting on the fact that Superman is dead, and he is to consistently do this ding, 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 ding thing, whatever goofy crap that was for this movie. And, like, that's how the movie just kind of, like, in my opinion, just kind of finishes off. With us just kind of seeing these art pieces and a number of items, and that there's possibly a Justice League on the horizon with demons and parademons and monsters and all this stuff. And Bruce is to still have to be worried about the whole, like, dream sequence that he was to have, that it might eventually be coming true. So, with that said, now that I've talked for a whole entire hour and I think I've gotten all that stuff out of the way, I think at the end of the day, I think that covers most of this movie. Man, was there a lot of stuff to just go in there, and hopefully I covered most of it, because legitimately there was just, like, so much stuff. So with that said, I think I'm just going to go on and call this one done and just put it out there. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.